Hi friends, this is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average Canadian wolfpack come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A safe space where being yourself is the ultimate goal. Each week we will bring you new episodes sharing our opinions on a ton of different topics in hopes we can get a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and this crazy world we live in. We want to build a community where we can show up as ourselves, be real, and lay it all out there. By sharing our opinions and experiences, we hope to reach others who can relate so we can all help each other learn, grow, and heal. But please keep in mind, as a disclaimer, none of us here are professionals. No one is giving any advice. We are strictly speaking of our life experiences, our opinions, and for entertainment purposes only. Now, with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. We hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the show, and today you guys are on episode 160, Being Real About Parenting. I'm so excited, you guys. I have both of my co-hosts in studio with me today. I am so excited and just wanting to have some real talk about parenting because let's face it, y'all, parenting nowadays is definitely different than parenting was when we were kids. And I'm sure every generation gets to say that, but I don't think every generation gets to say that it is as wild as it is right now. So I thought, let's take a minute and let's do an episode with both of my hosts talking about parents and parenting and what it's like out there, because some of this shit is crazy, y'all. But anyways, before we get into this awesome episode, I just want to remind you, if you are listening on the video platforms like YouTube or Rumble, to make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. If you're listening on the audio platforms like Spotify or Apple or Google Podcast, you can also turn on notifications and give us reviews, star reviews there if you can. 5 stars if you guys could take a second right now. I'll leave some space. Here's some space. You can go and do it right now. Leave some stars, leave a review so that we can, not be so suppressed. And you can find us, as always, guys, on social media at great job. The Be Real Babe podcast on Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram. Make sure to send us a message if you want to be on an episode or if you have a topic you want us to talk about. Questions, comments, concerns, we are here to listen. I hope you guys are having a great day whenever you tune in to listen to this. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And let's get on to this episode. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me in studio today, I have my beautiful co-host, Hales. Hey, babes. Hey. And I have my dude, Dusty. Hey, dude. Hey, Dusty. What up? I have two. We have two hosts today, guys. I'm so excited. At the first time, I think we've had all three of us together on the show.
No, I think we were with Kayla.
And Kayla, right? The one time, yeah, but not just the three of us yet, right? Yeah. No, not this season. No. Wow. Happy winter, guys. So talking about parenting, which, for those that know, I know cat parenting, expert in cat parenting. But the little meat suits that run around and scream at you, not so great. So I thought, what a good opportunity to have two people that I respect very much and look up to in the parenting world to speak about the good and bad of both sides. So let's pretend that no one's ever heard an episode before for both of you. So let's go through what you got. What's your crotch goblins? Let's start with Haley. What you got for those that don't know?
Well, my crotch goblin is currently napping. She will turn 3 in March. She was born 2021, height of the pandemic. And yeah, it's been a fucking journey being a first-time parent, let me tell you.
Yes, she was first-time parent. That's awesome. And Dusty, for yourself?
I got two. I've got a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. The son's a hockey player. That's probably the challenge, not so much him, but just the schedule, right?
Yeah,
no doubt.
And dealing with other people.
Yeah, no doubt. So they're right at that like preteen age right now. And then you've got Haley at pre-toddler stage.
Oh God.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
You can keep the preteen. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, that's a fun time. I feel bad for my mom. I say it all the time. I don't know if you guys do, but I do apologize to her for my teenage years.
My mom laughs. She's told me this is my dose of karma. This right here, this is me, like Haley 2.0. She's like, this is my retribution.
That's yes.
Like, well, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Always comes back. Yeah. Dusty, I'm bad at math, so that made you a parent in what decade? The early
It was
2000?
2010. Yeah, so it was the Olympic year was after though. It was
Nice.
September, and
Nice.
then 23 months later we had Dylan.
Right after.
Yeah,
Nice. One right after the
yeah,
other. I think sometimes that's good too. Just get it out of the way. I think each way is good. There's pros and cons to all of it. I think it's nice
Yeah.
if you span the time because then you get time with each, but then sometimes people say it's just like get it over and done with. So I think, like that's what I would think. It's just like get it done. But okay, let's start off with a positive. So Haley, what would you say is the best part of parenting so far for you?
God, this was a hard one. Obviously her in general, like she's just like the light of my life. She's so funny and everything, but I think it's watching her because she's in the discovery age, her discovering things and like learning things and the mom I did by myself, do by myself. Like those are truly like just watching her little face light up and get so excited about doing by herself is probably right now my favorite thing ever.
Yeah,
Easy.
that's totally fair. Yeah, because then it's like you're
Yeah.
watching her experience life and learning and get to
Well,
be the
yeah, I'm
teacher
watching her
too.
like yeah, there's just the excitement of like learning. Like, I don't obviously remember what it was like for me, but watching her get to do that, yeah, that is a blast, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and the magic of stuff too, right? Like the
Mhm.
magic when you have that as a kid, you want to keep that innocence. And I know that we're all about keeping the innocence of kids and that magic alive for them,
Yeah,
right? And
they don't
not,
get to hold on to it for so long, so getting to watch it and yeah, preserve it as long as I can is pretty fun.
yeah, I think that's amazing. And Dusty, what would you say is your favorite part about parenting?
oh, it's gonna be. I'm gonna probably piss people off because I think it all is. Even
That's amazing.
like
Yeah,
I being a dad. There's nothing I've done in my life that's better.
that's fair.
I've climbed mountains. I've got degrees. I've done all these things, and nothing compares to being a dad. So yeah, it's just every single day, even if they're screaming at each other. I love it.
Yeah, because at
There
least they
really
care.
isn't anything to compare to being a like I hate to say that being I'm not
No,
trying to throw anyone
that's all
like
good.
sadness, but being a parent is probably yeah, like he said, the best thing I've done
Yeah.
so far in my life, easy hands
Yes.
down.
Very much
Like
a
what?
thing to be proud of.
Yeah, what
And
else are you gonna do in your life that means more,
not
right?
much.
This is what it's all about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And shaping the
And then
next generation.
you see them in
For sure.
their little yous. You see the things that you struggled with, and it's in them. And it's like I can make a change earlier on.
Yes.
I struggled in a lot of things, so I know I'm kind of emotional about it because
Of
it's
course.
just one of the greatest things, right? So
Mhm.
They're kind of like little mirrors, right? I think, in a sense, right? They really
Yes.
reflect back to you. And if you're in a space where you want to make that better for them and make it better for yourself, you very much welcome that. And like you said, Dusty, good or bad, it's all a part of it, right? Because you can't just have a
Mhm.
perfect life. Like you got to have the bad experiences to help them navigate and
The
regulate through all of
balance,
that.
right?
Yeah, the balance of life. You can't, as much as I'm sure it's hard. And I could speak easy, being like, oh, it's easy and you want to just protect them, but at the same time, being a that much of a bubble parent and not letting them have the bad experiences and being by their side, kind of is a disservice to them because then they become adults and we see the trophy generation,
Yeah.
that tried to hide them from harshness, which totally understandable, but that doesn't teach them real life stuff for sure. So I think
Yeah.
that's great to see the balance and don't worry, Hales, it's okay. The rest of the episode, you don't have to stress. You're allowed to be
No
excited.
worries.
But I understand, like it's hard. It is, because I do think it's such a beautiful thing. And that's why I love wanting to talk to you about it with you guys because, you see your faces light up and you do get emotional like right off the bat. And that
mhm.
just shows what great
Yeah.
parents you are, right? So, yeah, I'd say I think the good parts of watching them get excited is the best. It would be hard for me. Like I struggle even with the cats. If they start gagging, I'm like, oh, this is a nightmare. And I'm like, you're
Mhm.
too soft to be a real parent. You can't even handle your
My
cats in pain.
grandma was
It's
the
different.
worst.
It's different than owning a pet. It's a
That's
different,
fair. That's fair.
like,
I just mean I stress for them. I
right,
can't even imagine
right,
what it is with a little human.
yeah.
Yeah. It's still crazy that they just like willingly give you a whole ass human to take home and like you're expected to like keep this thing alive and like
Yeah.
keep keep it progressing throughout life. That to me is still kind of like a my God. It
Who
makes me
decided?
feel like I'm like 16 again sometimes. Like I gotta take care of a whole ass human. Like
Yeah.
it reverts you in a way of just feeling like I don't know, not quite helpless, but almost in a sense sometimes. But like you said, I take it all.
Yeah.
Honestly, like there's so many parents, like especially moms that I am friends with that like I don't know, the complaining a
Mm-hmm.
lot from parents, it kind of gets to me because it's like, oh, it's so hard. They won't sleep. They won't this. They won't that. It's like, dude, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like everyone experiences something different. Everyone has a hardship. Everyone has the fun times. Like it just, I was pretty relaxed and taking it as it comes. So
Not expecting
um,
just all rainbows and
yeah, it's not.
understood it's all multifaceted too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. I love how much you guys love being parents. That's why I was like, we have
You,
to talk
you,
about this.
Sure.
you got to embrace the tough stuff because that's where all the diamonds are, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you learn about yourself too and
Right,
what you're
right.
capable of.
Myself, like I remember when Joe was little, and I had an anger issue. I'm kind of working through it, and I punched the wall in front of her, and the look on her face was horrified, and I had to like turn into I was a little boy in a man's body, and I had to like learn to like, okay, I got to deal with this. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right, and they teach you about yourself and make you better,
Mhm.
right?
That's what we
And
need,
I say
little
that to people
mirrors,
all the
right?
time.
Yeah.
right,
Ethan's here to teach them patience,
Yeah.
serious patience.
It's true, right? And so it's like, that's why the parents that embrace it, that want to honor that want to help them through it because you're healing a part of yourself too, right? And I think one
Mhm.
thing that is huge is parent guilt, right? And you guys feel, oh my gosh, I passed that on to my kids. But it's like, no matter what, everyone's going to do that. I think that's the whole point. And then it's mirrored back to you. So then you can
Mhm.
work together to fix it. I know for me and my mom, like at her age, she's fixing her shit at the same time being open with me and we're walking through that together. And I think that's such a beautiful part of being a parent. That's like your mentor and your we talked about this in last episode, or I don't even know if we talked about it, but in life it's always good to have a mentor and a student, right? And I think that's the
Mhm.
foundational one is parenting, where you reach up to your
Yeah.
parents, they teach you or taught you bad things and then you see it reflected, so you're like, and then sometimes parents resent their children because it is such a mirror. And then
right,
you really have to be prepared, I think, to see that part of yourself, right, in a
Mhm.
little mini, because you do put down behaviors, and that's not to guilt anybody. Everybody does it. I think that's a part of life, right? And you work through it together. And like, y'all, don't be
For sure.
guilty about that, because I think we all have done it and we've all had it done to ourselves, right? It's
right.
in that adult
I was
phase being,
yeah,
let's do it together.
yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, there's definitely something with generational trauma. I know we hear
Mhm.
this all the time, and it gets passed down. And I was thinking, um, when you're the adult, and you're a parent, that's the time that you have a choice to either keep passing that generational trauma by
Mhm.
drinking, distracting yourself, doing all these selfish things, or you build the wall and you stop it.
Mhm. Totally.
And I see the stuff in my past, not even with me, but with family, and it was like I either can ignore it. It's just like the COVID stuff. The reason we all stood
Yeah.
up is because we didn't want to pass that to our kids. We didn't
Yeah.
want them to be the one on the front line. So we
Hmm.
said no.
Yeah.
And that's what we do with our own shit too, is we can stop it, build that wall and say, no, I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to figure this shit out.
Hmm.
So that way I can teach my kids the way to deal with this. So it doesn't keep passing down through the generations, alcohol
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. Right.
Totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
All the behaviors, good. And it's like you
Right.
want to pass down good behaviors, right? Like you see
Right.
sometimes those families that are super healthy and you've got the grandparents working out and the parents or whatever that is, maybe into sports, and you see the positive generation um, traits that get passed down too, right? It's wanting to
Right.
cultivate more and more of that for generations to come, right?
Mhm.
So like for me, if we were to have kids, even adopting with the behavior, I want to get better at making better choices for food because I didn't grow up doing that. And now as an adult, I
Yeah.
struggle to do that. And I don't want that. I wouldn't want that ever for my kids, right? And so it's like you want to work on building healthier generational wealth,
Right.
instead of trauma. And and it
Yeah.
sucks, and it sucks being the person that has to take it all and be the one that cleanses it
Exactly.
and
That's the
faces
other thing I
it,
was going to
right?
say.
Because you have to face it, right? If you're that
Right.
person that's going to
It's
That's
stop
hard
it.
taking accountability.
Hmm.
right. When you're the
Yeah.
person that
Mhm.
decided to be the wall,
Hmm.
you take all that wave, everything that's
Yeah.
coming at you. It's hard. So
It
you
is.
can't be got to be ready to just take the pain because it gets dark and black because
Hmm.
you could be taking 200 years of generational shit that's
Hmm.
all accumulated along the way,
Yeah,
right?
Well, not
absolutely.
to mention all the like criticism that comes from trying to be different and
Right.
trying
Hmm.
to like alter the path and
Yeah.
from family, from outside, from everyone.
Right.
It's the self-aware and the criticism from everyone is a hard thing to hold on to. But if you can, I mean, it's worth it because it is.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to pass on
Their shit.
shitty things to their kids, right? And we all do our best to not, but it comes down to that thing like where I'm not going to be like my parents ever, and you grow up and eventually it's like,
Humble
holy
pie.
shit, I'm my mother. Or,
Yeah.
holy shit, I'm my dad. Like,
Yeah.
you don't really realize it until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right.
And usually saying that when you're not a parent too, right? And then you become one and then you're like, oh shit. Oh, here's some humble
yeah,
pie. I need to,
yeah,
I've got to watch my
serious
mom.
humble pie.
Yeah, my mom had kids again when I was 12. So as I was becoming a teen, I watched her, be a mom again. And I was like, this shit's hard. So like I never took parenting for like, some people it's just, especially they have them young and they don't really realize that, if you don't have your shit together, it's going to be very easy to pass that on. And you can see easily how generational trauma gets passed because by the time you come to that awareness, let's say in your 30s, most of y'all are younger parents. You already have, 10, 13-year-olds, like you said, that as you're trying to heal, you're like, ooh, I've been maybe displaying this for the last like 10 years, right? And that's where the parent guilt comes on, especially when you start becoming
Right.
aware of all of the things. And then you look back and you're like, oh my gosh. And doing that with my mom now, I'm sure you guys feel that. And you're like, oh, like, I wish I would have known this and I wouldn't have put my kid through that. But like, you can't do that because you could go
Shoulda, coulda,
crazy.
wouldas will kill
Yeah,
you.
you just stop it
Yeah.
now, right? Like, now. So when you know better, do better, right?
Well, and the other
Exactly.
thing that it layers on top is then you're also dealing with an adult relationship usually,
Yeah.
right? With somebody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can be carrying their own generational trauma, and they might not be in the same
Space.
self-reflection space as you are,
Yeah.
and they're not dealing with it, but you are.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with someone that's not taking any responsibility. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
so you layers of different things, and I honestly find the relationship thing is a lot harder than the kids.
Yeah.
Because you have to be on the same page. You have to be.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna be rocky and bumpy the whole way.
Yeah, I agree.
That's another thing Nick and I always talk about is like I try and instill in her like you are her first male role model.
Mhm.
You are the first thing she sees as a guy. So the way you treat me even is going to be a reflection of everything she deals with in life. So having a balance, everything all at once can be very cumbersome and very like complicated.
Yeah. And then when you're not on the same page, like you said, right? And I think again, like a lot of people in this day and age in the like microwave right now generation, babies are being had, let's say at record speeds in relationships where like, have you had the conversations about vaccinating your kids or how you would feed them or what kind of schooling they would want? And like, those types of conversations aren't very sexy conversations to have in the first little bit. So they're probably not really had, but they're big conversations in my opinion when you decide to procreate with another human being. And I just think because at that young age, you're not really understanding the weight of the world because you're in your 20s, you really shouldn't. You're not thinking about that.
Either,
you're just
right?
having fun and you want to be parents and you should be. But then you don't have these conversations and all of a sudden you're faced with it. And like you said, if you're not in your spiritual journey the same place or your awareness to yourself, that could be very toxic, I think. Like not toxic, but you could put, yourself at risk to strain between the relationship that trickles down to your kids, right? It's
100%.
It's
the last few years I know a lot of friends that have
that's what I mean, right? Like I don't think that was my point too. I think the last couple of years it was like if you didn't have the conversations of stuff that we all deemed normal and now you got half the population questioning stuff and the other half being like, well, this is what we normally do. I've seen a lot of rift in relationships specifically over the last couple of years because like we didn't have to have those conversations. And now the last couple of years, it was like in your face. And so, you're facing your shit.
But to have those conversations.
Yeah.
That too, like we really as a society need to, with even hooking up, you really need to have a massive list. I mean, this is me as a 48 knowing this. Not in my 20s. If she was beautiful, maybe made me laugh, happy, that was enough.
The list is very short as you're younger.
You should have a massive list and you should know yourself. You need to like really go through because that's the thing. Hookup culture, you can have a baby.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to know who you're, you know what I mean?
Yes,
can't just because
totally.
It's funny how like that consequence when we were younger was scary, don't get me wrong, but it's still like there was so many ways to prevent it that you felt almost like it wasn't like it was a thought for most people, especially girls, because we know like we carry it and everything, but like it was just it was just kind of like, oh, whatever, it could happen, but we've got ways around it. And that list now, if I were to date, my God, I'd be a widow. I don't even care. I'd be a single mom. I have no patience.
I know.
It sounds like a nightmare to have to go down this list and people are going to look at you like, hey, psycho. It's like, no. Especially with kids involved. Like, you don't meet this, you don't
You
Right.
don't,
ride the ride
you don't
type
have
thing. Like,
access.
no.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that would be a fair thing to say of what I see from everyone saying the hardest about parenting is, like you said, the relationship, like balancing two different people trying to raise one person, especially if you've never had that, or being a single person and trying to bring another
Mm-hmm.
individual, especially if that person has a child, because then you've got another parenting that they obviously didn't align, and then you've got to try and align. So I imagine the relationship part of parenting is probably almost sometimes harder than like the relationship with your child in a sense.
Yeah. Because the relationship doesn't just actually include that one person. It includes
Yeah.
in-laws, it includes friends, it
Yes.
includes everything.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have multiple ways of friction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and your partner could get along great, and you could have in-laws inputting and making it hard, right? I mean, it is
Multifaceted.
really. I mean, I have to say, like my ex mother-in-law was amazing. Like, I have no problem with her. She was like a beauty,
That's
but it can happen. There's other people that did come, right? And
yeah.
it's
My father-in-law is one of them. I love him to death, but he's a pain in my ass.
And it
A
happens,
pain in
right?
my ass.
Right? And it does. It causes
Mm-hmm.
contention. And then if you have, and let's say your spouse doesn't have a good relationship with that family member and they haven't been able to have honest conversations, let's say, then that trickles
Yeah.
back to you. And then, and it's
right.
just like, that's what I think when people don't think in this, like you said, this hookup culture and not understanding the importance of parenting and just kind of, I just think it's super important where some people cheapen parenting. Like, it's not a big deal. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
massive undertaking, especially with whom you're having with and sitting around and seeing all my single friends that are single parents and seeing them trying to date. It is very important who you're having this with
Mm-hmm.
because you don't lying about stuff. It can be, courts and like stress
Oh,
and, it's so sad to me. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm a child of divorce, so I get it. Like I was in it. I'm a product of it.
Mine weren't married, but they definitely weren't together after 2 years old. So
Same,
I'm
right? Yeah,
in
my
the same
parents
boat.
divorced when
Yeah.
they were two, and like again. I think we could go back to that. It's like an attack on the family unit, right? And just not setting people up to understand this. So what else would you guys say is a hard part of parenting? Let's say, Hales, what would you say is one of the hardest parts as a mom outside of like the relationship parts, but just being a mom in general?
Um, Being that mine is so different that I had to go through it during our stupid bullshit fucking last few years here. Mine is standing your ground and being confident in your decisions. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the time is really hard because I feel like as much research as we do, I don't really trust anything I find on the internet anymore. Everything can be skewed to how, like, it's just hard to find accurate, honest information and be able to, like, be confident that you're finding it. And the opinions of people coming in, like, I'm pretty good. I've got pretty thick skin. It's been fine. But, like, just like the amount of opinions, especially family members' opinions, who I love and trust, but, like, it just, it's been a freaking roller coaster of just, am I doing this right? Am I sure this decision is going to be good for her? No, this decision is good. Well, like
Makes you feel very
I
vulnerable.
for the most part I've been pretty like confident and I've been a lot better at standing my ground, but I just I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah,
You learn about
absolutely.
yourself real quick. I
Yeah.
tell you that, and like what you are willing to fight for, what you're willing to bend to, and like I don't know. It's been like I said, a roller coaster of up and down for the last few years. So,
Yeah, and you've definitely, like you said, been a mom at a different time where there's this added
Mhm.
pandemic shit where you're like,
Well, even
whoa,
trying to talk to my mom about it,
yeah,
like I was having a conversation with her saying like, you don't like, at this point, I'm probably going to homeschool her because like I don't have any patience or desire to deal with the whole gender bullshit and like
hmm
litter boxes and bathrooms. So like that to me, even in Catholic schools, I feel like they're like I just don't have a desire to do it. And I told my mom, like, she's like, well, I don't see how it would have affected you. I was like, Mom, I was the biggest tomboy. I had a fucking mushroom cut when I was a kid. Like, I did
we want
not wear
pictures.
clothes that were remotely close
Gender,
to girl
yeah,
clothes. Like, I probably wouldn't have boobs at this point if I was raised
you'd
now.
have
No,
mine
I don't
dress.
see that. I'm like, how do you not see that?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I just, the difference of like, especially my mom's been the hardest one our difference of opinion in the past few years has just been like wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
feel
that would have been for me the hardest part of parenting for me.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. Dusty, what about yourself? What would you say is the
I
hardest?
want on what Haley said. Like, I actually see that women get it way harder. Like, there's so
Yeah.
much criticism on what you do, and it's coming from older generations too. Like, your opinion
Mm-hmm.
is antiquated. It doesn't fit to this new world, and a lot of these people haven't paid attention to what's going on.
No.
They're living in
Mm-hmm.
a pure world for the baby boomers, especially,
Yeah.
and they
My
have no
grandparents.
idea what
What's
Gen
going
X
on?
maybe, but not with the millennials or the Gen Zs. They have no idea what these people are going through, what
Yeah.
it's like to be, and what it's like to be a mother in this new world. It's totally different. Like, for dads, I don't see anything. Like, we have a bit of pressure on our sports stuff, but if you don't give a fuck, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where my big complaint would be, is just parents are insane about pushing their kids. Like, when I was a kid in the 80s, we were free range. We do sports to
Yeah,
parents' hair. It wasn't because they thought we were going to be NHL stars.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
it's because you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
my kid on the ice 17 out of 20 days.
That's crazy.
He's in rep, and it's like, and not because I would have been happy if he played house. I like to see him have fun,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's good enough to be rep, so he's rep. But it's insane.
Yeah.
They're going to Vegas in 2 weeks. Like, what are 11-year-old boys going to Vegas for a tournament? Like,
It's so expensive.
it's insane.
My mom was so glad I wasn't a boy because she couldn't afford hockey, let alone
Yeah.
wanting to do the schedules in like the early mornings.
Yeah.
And I of course was a tomboy and asked her, "Can I please play hockey?" And she was like, had to sit me down and go through the budget and the realities of like,
No, you can't.
you can't.
And that was then. Imagine now,
Right,
right?
right.
And now with the prices of stuff.
Like, you should have seen the tryouts for rep. It was, fans were packed. There was grandparents there. There was freaking aunts and uncles. Like, and then
Pressure.
when the rep tryouts were over, there was like emails and arguments and petitions to like get kids on teams, and that's what I'm saying. People are insane. It's like, when do these kids get to be kids?
Yeah. 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 I would
That's
say
what-
that's
I like
a
what you
hard
said
part.
about the free stuff. Like
Right.
we were free range kids. I was early 90s, but even then,
We're the
like
same, yeah.
we were very much the like you found a stack of bikes on someone's yard, you knew where everyone was. We biked everywhere. I had a watch that I had to go by what time I had to come home at because I didn't have a phone.
No.
Like
Such a
I
different.
miss the like honestly, I've never been so thankful to have had like an honest childhood.
Yeah.
Like a honest to God childhood. Because these kids these days, fuck.
They don't
Right.
get that. They don't get
They're
that. And
machines.
they have more pressure than ever before, you know? And that's why I'm like, do we like someone shared a reel and it was like, do these kids actually have all these behavioral things, or is it the food that they're eating, being trapped in a box and overperforming? Like, if you think about how we're all trying to see social media and keep up with the Joneses, well, these kids are doing that even on these game platforms, and they're seeing all these
Right.
other kids have all these other things that they don't have, and they're now all of a sudden in this comparison game at like 10, 11 years old. It is a lot harder to be a kid. Like, yes, it's easier in ways where it's like they don't have to do physical work, but I don't think that's easier. I think that was better. I would think it's better. I'm glad I had chores. I'm glad that I learned how to cook and how to take care of a home, and I had to be doing my homework, and my parents weren't trying to be my best friends on TikTok and letting me be a part, like it's just this whole different world now, and these kids have all these different pressures that I just don't think anybody's prepared for. And how are you guys supposed to help parent that when you've never gone through that? It's all new. Like, the last 20 years of parenting is a lot newer with this whole online generation, that like you
Right.
can't go to your parents and ask like, oh, what do I do? My daughter's getting bullied on TikTok. Like, you can't fucking go to your parents and ask them that. That's new, right?
That's the
I've
bullying isn't just like when you're at school anymore. This is
No.
24/7. You never
All
get
the
away
time.
from
No.
No.
How do you deal
I have
with
a
that?
girlfriend whose son gets made fun of at school because he doesn't have like the latest gaming station, and she's like, I refuse. He reads his brother and sister books.
Mhm.
Like he reads his books at the table when I'm cooking supper. Like he has a walkie-talkie to go back and forth to school. She will not give him a cell phone, which I love, but they live in a small town, so it's like doable. But there's a lot like that I like. It sucks because you don't want your kid to be odd man out, and you don't want them to feel out of place, but like, how do you not? Like, they're just so zombied. And like, there was that, I saw like this story on Instagram saying that this guy and his wife decided not to give their kid social media, and the kid himself saw his friends like decline
Right.
the older they got because they're constantly comparing themselves to kids online and needing the next best thing and like this and that. They're always in their phones, and he said they all look so unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've never, like, the generations of kids these days are just
Zoned out.
like, when we were growing up, it was always, holy shit, kids are like they're growing too fast, like 13-year-old girls have like huge boobs, and like it's the hormones in the chickens, and like I thought that was a big deal and like a bad thing. But now like 12-year-olds are doing like the most ridiculous, like, provocative dances online, and it's normal. Like, I'll be fucking damned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I just don't get it. It's too much.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not allowed to be kids anymore.
No. And I bet, like, Dusty, your kids are coming right up to that age, right? Like, do you notice that they feel pressures of social media? Or are they still kind of like into their sports and kid world kind of still?
Well, my son's so busy with sports that and he's wired. Well, both my kids are like me in different ways. Like he's very, um, I would like he's a very steady kid. He kind of knows he's not worried about pressure. He's like me that way, where it's like if I don't
Driven.
want to do it, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's driven for
Yeah.
himself. Whereas my daughter's, it's I guess it's pretty standard to be like this, but she cares what other people think, and she wants to be accepted, but she has her independent thoughts though, and I know COVID really harmed her because she had the same opinions as me, and she would go to school without a mask, and she got bullied for that. She got bullied for being unvaccinated, and people would say, "You're gonna kill us. We don't want to be your friend." She lost a good chunk of people as friends over the COVID stuff and so,
That must have been super
as
hard.
a dad, and I like, that was another layer of me feeling sort of stressed about my decision, because it was more about kids were going, what I was putting my kids through for my opinions.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I'm really big on them having their own opinions. Like I'll tell them like I feel, but I said, even if I feel this way, I want you to form your own opinion about stuff.
Yeah.
But it's tough to see this, and like now she's in 8th grade, and it's like girls are mean.
Yeah, they're fucking mean, man. We're mean.
Girls are assholes.
We
Like, I
are.
thought boys were mean. Girls are freaking rude.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're low cut, and they're faster now because they have access to this stuff, right? Like we didn't have as much access. Like, yeah, we had YouTube, but it was like the end of Z World and like stupid fucking
It was all those stupid,
like
like
cartoons and
stupidity. It wasn't
yeah, it
what
wasn't
it is
like it is
today.
now where it's like it teaches girls how to do their makeup, or like they're extra filtered and they're doing all this plastic surgery. And so like I think girls are getting like, yeah, we had body dysmorphia, but it was a lot easier at our age, I think, to look at like celebrities and know that was celebrities. They had plastic surgery. Now it's everyday people can't fucking take a regular photo. They have to be extremely filtered. And these kids are seeing that. And what is that telling them at an early age, that if you don't like something about yourself, you should filter it? And we complain of the body dysmorphia it gave us just with MTV and celebrities. What is it doing to the next generation of kids when it's every fucking day people doing this all the time? Like, that's my question.
Right. Well, that's just it. It's that their moms are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
How many
Well,
30,
on their
40
kids too.
Right. How many 30, 40-year-olds are freaking filtering so their daughters are seeing this?
Yes.
Like how you were saying about your husband being the role model for your daughter.
Yeah.
At the females too. If they're out whining
So
and they're putting filters on and they got fake everything, well, what do you think the daughters are going to see?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not a good thing. Like I haven't dated in, gosh, I don't even know how long, 3 years now, because I'm done.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
I'm looking for basically a unicorn now, and it's just
it's not easy.
It's honestly, it is so weird. Like when we go out places now, like I always feel like I used to be makeup and I like not like crazy, but like I used to be into it, do my hair, all this. Now I feel so bad for Nick sometimes. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I don't care about it anymore.
I know.
I have no energy to put into it. Like I don't feel like myself anymore with it. And it's like me and her will play like with like the filters on Snapchat, the funny ones, and she like seeing her face like that. But even then, like a lot of the photos, like I have to like actively tell myself like you don't need it.
Yeah.
Even the ones that don't do anything and it just like smooths, I'm like, you don't friggin' need it.
Yes.
Because we are so geared towards like, if you don't look flawless,
you're not good enough.
You fucking bridge troll you. How dare you do that to the world and show your true face?
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it's all morphed us all to do it to each other, right? Like, and that's what I'm trying to be that's why I think it's so important that we do take breaks from it, because it's not even just for the other people, it's for ourselves. If we can't take those
Yeah.
photos, like we were talking about, like for me, I used to absolutely hate taking like fitness photos, and I was like, oh, I just don't want to look at my body. But I took them
Yeah.
so much and looked at them so much, I just got actually used to my body, that I was like, oh, well, that's just what my body looks like. But if you avoid something, then it's it's gonna always, I think, be worse for yourself, because then it's like, are you innerly telling yourself that you do look better this way, and you're affirming that by continually doing that for yourself, right? So
Say hi.
I
No.
but yeah, I just like, I think that's to your point too, Dusty. It's not just the men, that need to, you're not just representing what you should be for the other gender, right? Like dads are showing their little girls how they should be treated by men, how moms should be treated, and how they should be, right? But it's also how the moms and dads, how they should be treating themselves to replicate in their kids too, right? So I said that was one thing to my mom. She never liked taking pictures of herself, and then I didn't like taking pictures. Then we were robbed of all these memories, and so I'm like, we don't need to post these, we don't need to do whatever, but can we just take them so that we have them? Because why? Who are we worried about's going to see that? Like, it's just us that can see it, right? But it's just those little weird things that you pass on to your kids, not unknowingly. And you wouldn't want to do that to your kids, right? You wouldn't want them to have to feel like they need to filter your face. So it's like you have to go through that uncomfortable with yourself, I think, so that you don't pass that on to your kids. Speaking out of my
I'm
ass.
glad we didn't have filters and stuff
Yeah.
when I was in high school and junior high, because it would have been so much worse.
Right.
I was pretty much like Dusty said, I was a good mix of like my opinions and stuff. Like I really didn't give a shit what people thought of me. I wore what I wanted to and stuff like that. But being a girl, there is always that essence of like, you want to fit in, you have to be girly. And I had to go through that awkward transition of like trying to find my feminine and like not exactly knowing how, and like my thick ugly white eyeliner that I had to do for some freaking reason. And like
We all did it.
it is, they don't go through that anymore though. Like they don't get those rites of passage where they just know they can go on YouTube and like figure out how to do everything flawlessly and like perfectly. And like
They age
I
so
feel like that's
quickly.
kind of that's something that they miss out, is like finding yourself, what works for you, what you like, what you don't like. It's just, this is what you have to look like, be this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It's
it
stressful.
drives me
Important
nuts.
there. Like there's this like on every level, there's this like expectation of perfection on everything. They perform, but the thing is, it's not real perfection. It's there's filters and there's things that are, your parents are bolstering you up and pumping up your opinion about yourself.
Tires,
You,
yeah.
you get out to the real world and you're gonna get shit kicked,
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
It is
right?
not like that. Yeah.
The Chinese aren't filtering their kids. They're busting their ass doing calculus in grade 6. We're learning about rainbows.
Yeah.
Like when I
Yeah.
get into the world, they're gonna get their asses handed to them by the rest of the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In real time.
Yeah.
Already.
I seen Candace Owens shared somebody, and he was kind of like making fun of his own generation. And but he was saying straight up, he's like, we couldn't go to war. Like if we got enlisted, like I could not go and do that. Like this generation just could not do those things. And that gets kind of scary, where you think like, not everyone needs to be war. And we know there's a whole opinion on war, but like, could you defend yourself? Could you, defend your family? Like I feel like there's so much that's not happening of that anymore. Like even just for myself, I'm like, Grant's not here. What if someone was to come and attack my house? Am I prepared for that? Like, and I just think we've gotten so soft over these generations because we really haven't had to go through as much physical crazy shit as like generations before us, like with like actual physical violence in our lives. We've just had this like weird war of like online mental
I remember
crap.
Nick, when he was in his big Call of Duty phase, when we were like, we were just under 18, so we were pretty young still. He was convinced that he could fight in war. I was like, there's no fucking respawn, dude. Like, that is not what it is like. Like, I don't understand. Like, I remember it so vividly. I'm like, the fuck you could. Like, give me a break. Like, no. You don't understand. Like, there you die. You don't come back to life to continue killing.
No.
Like, you die. That's it. Like, this generation of kids, I do not have any faith in if we had to draft our 18-year-olds right now. Oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
Even the Ukrainian and Russian thing, all you see is them on TikTok
doing
and
dances
like the
for
front line, and they're like, give me a break. Like, no, that's not war. Your grandparents are rolling over in their grave right now. Like, how embarrassing is that?
Yeah, we have an of ourselves, our kid, or especially our kids or the younger generations. They think they're awesome. They live in this world of awesomeness. It's like the Lego movie. Everything is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes, everything is
Or
awesome.
But you're just
everyone's oppressed too.
Lego.
Like there's one or the
Yeah,
other, right? Like,
yeah,
and just like, really? Like you're on your iPhone making a TikTok about how someone, like, with all due respect, misgendered you, and that's absolute devastation.
Oh
Like
my
that feels like that's a
God.
very privileged problem to have
right,
right now in the world, like I feel like there's complete ignorance, and they live in this online realm where that their avatar online is what's reality, and
right.
then or everything offends them, but there's nobody based in like true real life at that age. I feel like I
Well,
think
if
your
your
guys'
opinion
No.
kids.
is telling me that you've never faced any hardships,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you're offended like that, you're soft as a fucking marshmallow, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys see
You know.
that video of that one person that was just like, you're misgender? It was to a cop, and she was drunk, and
Yeah.
like
That was so.
she
Well, she was driving on this like into oncoming traffic, and her worry is, I'm not a ma'am.
yeah, don't
Yeah.
call me
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And
What happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt and words will never hurt me. Like, what the hell happened to that?
I don't
Can
know.
we bring that back? Because like words are words. Like I don't get that.
I agree.
I ugh,
I have faith in
I
your
don't know.
guys' generation turning that around, with your kids. Like, I feel like there
Mm.
was like,
Oh,
we had,
fingers
our
crossed.
grandparents that I think we've talked about this before that, didn't really get to know about feelings and emotions. So, passed down all the badness. And then, our grandparents started to understand it. And then our parents started to understand it. Now we understand it. But it's like when our grandparents and parents found out, it's like they tried to almost reverse it too far, where it's like feelings matter more than reality, and everything in is your feelings is truth. So it's like I feel like
Yeah.
we're going to have that comeback, because we can't identify children as cats, ladies and gentlemen. Like we can have spaces and conversations about LGBT without having our children identify as cats, so we got to come back a little bit, where it's like, yeah, feelings are important, but
Reel her back in.
yeah, we got to reel this back in a little bit. I feel like that's what happened. It was like,
Mhm.
ooh, we went too far. Let's go back kind of more to the middle. Is that kind of how you guys
I
feel?
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying this for a while. Like this young, and I see it in my kids and some of the
Mm-hmm.
kids they hang out with. There's resentment building. There's resentment for the bullshit that they're being taught.
Yeah.
There's resentment being called racist when they're just existing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they have a color of skin that isn't the in right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting resentful for all the rainbow shit being pushed on them. They're getting and they're gonna come back with their teeth baring, and they're gonna crush these people. I can see it happening. It's gonna happen within the next 10 years.
Yeah.
There's When these kids hit 20, 21, 22, they're gonna come back with a vengeance, because they don't like the way they're being treated and what the bullshit they're being taught, because it's not teaching them to be functional adults,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna
No.
their adulthood, and they're gonna be useless for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's teaching them to be professional victims, if
Yes.
right,
anything. Like,
Yeah.
right.
Depend on the basic income and stuff. And that, again, is that by design, right? To make them depend on government
I
services
got
and
in
not
like
get a real job and contribute to society.
I got in a huge argument with a friend about the whole critical race theory, because it was a math problem, and it was like, what percentage of this race is more likely to be poor versus, like, it was like this whole thing. I was like, what happened to Johnny has 6 apples
Mm.
and
Yeah.
Jenny has 5?
Yeah.
How many apples do they have together? Like, what the does race have to do with
Right,
math?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
they just try and then yeah, the LGBT is like inserted into every little nook that they can like stick it through.
Yes.
And yeah, like, our generation is starting to see it more, because that wasn't the case. Like, there are gay kids in our school, yes. There are kids that there was one kid that wore a skirt in our school that Nick still talks about and laughs at, because it's like, the fuck are you wearing a skirt for? Like, it started slowly to peak in as we were like graduating and stuff. But yeah, like, I have a friend, it was a girl that I met. She's just graduated 2 years ago, and they had a litter box in their bathroom. I'm like,
Can you imagine?
I thought
Can
that
you
was
imagine
new.
as a girl going doing your makeup and someone's taking a dump?
No,
No,
I would
Like,
I don't
seriously,
even
I
like it
want
when
to
my
see it.
cats
If
do it.
it was in there, I would honestly tell them, like, I want to see you use that. I
Yeah,
want to
is
see it
that
active.
yours?
Because, like, do you actually think that that is like a normal thing? I can't even pee in front of my friends with a door open, let alone squatting in a fucking litter box. Like,
right.
get real.
The
There's
vivid
no
pictures I
way.
have in my head right now
Oh,
are just ridiculous.
I catch when you catch them, Brandy. It's the same thing as me. They look at you like, and it's like, no, I'm sorry. Oh
I
my god,
apologize.
my bad.
That's what I mean. I
Sorry.
don't even like eye contacting my cat, let
Oh.
alone a human being in
Well, what
there.
do they?
Like if I went to talk to a student and they meowed at me, like, bye,
What
fucking bye. I'm never
do
talking to you
those
again.
furry suits have trap doors in them? I was thinking
They
that too. Like,
do. They do. They do. I think they do.
And just stripped down nude like a jumpsuit. Like if any woman has peed in a jumpsuit, you know the horror of that. Like there's
Yeah.
not a chance.
No, it's
Like
not fun. It's not fun.
fuck
But
off.
like and I think there's extremes to all of this that we're just going too far. Like, when they say that like let a child just be a masculine girl. Like let a child be a feminine boy. Like
Save the
why
tomboys,
I feel
honestly.
yeah.
Save the
Like
fucking
I
tomboys.
feel like by trying to make space for trans kids and all of those things that we're actually putting them more into boxes that they don't fit in. And then we're now seeing more detransitioners and stuff like that. And people can deny and say that young kids aren't happening. It is. They're putting on puberty blockers between 3 to 6 years old to just slow it down. And it's like, what? Like to me that is a complete disservice to children. And it's again, you're upset because people put you in a straight box or a gender box, but then you're putting these kids in
Mhm.
another box. So is that going to be necessarily the best thing to do? Or should you just let kids be kids and be imaginative and be a safe space to be like, hey, yeah, you're just a boy
Mhm.
that likes to do that, because you'll probably grow out of it because it's probably not your thing. Or maybe it is your thing. Like, I feel like by trying
Yeah.
to take them out of
I have a
these
family
boxes,
member.
you're putting them back in a box. Does that make sense?
I have a family member who is very into leopard print, and that's totally fine. He's like 5 years old or 6 years old. Like he can be into leopard print all
Be
he
into
wants
it.
to. But now his new thing is wearing a tie, like his dad does.
Yeah.
And I told them, and I've talked about this with Nick, like there is such thing as just a phase. And he
Yeah.
has a twin sister, and he grows up with his little sister or his twin sister, and that's totally fine. He can wear whatever the hell he wants. But like going so far as to like push him into like the boxes of like he is now an LGBTQ member, like maybe he just likes the leopard print for now and he's going to want to grow up to be a cop like his dad is.
Yep.
Like you just don't know. Like it's so quick to like, but they know, they're telling you they know. Girl, I wanted to be like every animal under the sun when I was a kid. I wanted to change my name because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like they say that kids like up until 7 years old, anything you tell them becomes fact. Like they
Yeah.
don't know how to differentiate between things. Like I just that whole argument of like they know what they're doing, like they can decide is really like mind blowing to me that people can actually sit there and tell you that. Like your kid knows what do they? I don't even know what the hell I want half the time. You expect a 3-year-old like yeah.
Babes, it's time to take a tiny little break of this awesome episode and get into another shout out. As you guys know, for this season, it's been super important for us to stop for a second and give a shout out to someone in our community. Today, we have a very special highlight. If you guys can remember her from episode 155, when we had Joelle, the ethereal witch, on our show. That was one of our favorite shows of the season. You guys will make sure to go and watch it if you haven't. But let's talk about all the awesome, amazing services that Joelle offers and just the crazy awesome person that she is. So guys, you can find her on Instagram at the ethereal witch, and you can also find her on her website here at www.theetherealwitch.com. And on this website, she has a little bit about her and all the services that she offers. And we're just going to take a second to highlight some of those because, like I said, this girl's magical and y'all need to be having her in your life. I also want to give a shout out to Moon Ocean Photography for these beautiful photos that we're showing in this little shout out here. So what's to be expected from this beautiful creature? So at the Ethereal Witch Co., we offer a wide range of services to support your journey towards optimal well-being. From spirit remembrance mentoring, private sound bathing, to group meditation classes, and the option to combine and curate a healing modality tailored to you specifically. For example, a private sound bath combined with a guided meditation and crystal therapy. just reach out and we can start the magical process. So cute. You find more details for each on our booking page. So guys, booking pages, you can head over there. Let's talk a little bit about her services. And just keep in mind that all of these services, except for sound bathing, are available online. So you do not have to be around her in the area in Alberta. You can also access her from wherever you are in the world. So what kind of services? Well, first you guys can start off with doing a free vibing consultation. It's a 15-minute consultation with her, so you can just see if you vibe and see if you guys want to go forward in things. I think it's super important when anybody's on any sort of healing journey with any practitioner, spiritual or Western, that you check and make sure that it works for you, right? Because not everyone vibes, and that's okay. But y'all are all going to vibe with her, so it's not a worry here. You can also do ethereal oracles, is 1 hour for a 6-card spread to give you insight, direction, and confirmation. You can also do a meditation, a guided meditation. She also offers energy services from mediumship to energy clearing and everything in between. A lot of things, when it comes to spiritual healing, is really dependent on you as a person, right? Which I find is so beautiful, because then it's just unique, because not one size fits all in anything, right? You can also look to book, like I said, sound bathing as well. And she also offers divine access point at activation. It's an energetic activation for your DAP. Again, working through, just like we talked about in episodes, all the energy in the body, working that through. That's why we feel like spiritual healers are super important, because they just tap into things that not everyone gets. So yeah, you guys can find her on Instagram. Absolutely amazing human being. Episode 155 if you want to catch her live in action with our babe Hales. And you can go visit her website, guys. Shoot her a message. She also hosts really neat retreats where you get to be around like-minded people and all experience the magic that is this magical being. So thank you guys so much for listening. Joelle, I hope that you keep soaring and doing the amazing things that you're doing for the world, and we're just so lucky that you're a part of our community. All right, guys, let's get back onto the show.
See that and still no, the government said, or I saw it on the news, and it's that's how I filter through friends now. It's oh,
okay,
did you know?
Interesting.
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah, no doubt.
Gotta go.
And people and parents in BC are losing their rights more and more and more, because now it's your child can go get vaccinated without your knowledge. They can
Oh my God.
They can change, and now in schools, I don't know if that's all in Canada, but BC for sure, they can change their pronouns and have their teachers not tell parents at all that they're going through those kind of things, right? And
that I would feel.
And I think we've talked about that before. Of course there's shit parents, and of course we want to try and protect those kids from shit parents, but I don't think that's majority of parents. And why are we now protecting children and keeping secrets between parents and schools and not telling parents things about that when it comes to stuff like this?
Number one stranger danger rule.
Yeah.
If someone ever tells you to keep a secret from your parent,
right,
run.
Bye.
Run. And we talked about in the last program, Maids, how the guy in Quebec is pushing for mature-minded children to make the decision to end their lives. So, what is going on here? I feel like the parents are getting pushed away from kids more and more in all aspects, where these children can make their decisions, but they can't fucking vote, they can't drink, they can't buy weed, which I think they all should not be able to do. But it's
they can't go to the park alone. They can't get piercing.
They can't,
what I mean?
Even, but they can go and chop
your tits off and go get a
gender affirming care,
a vaccine, and jump on some hormones. But tattoos, piercings, alcohol, drugs are all off the book.
And think about things like Gardasil, that didn't age well. And so kids, teenage girls, and especially when you're younger, that's why all of us were on birth control. We were fucking sold that being a slut was the better thing, and you don't want to have a baby because you don't at that age, but that's how you do it. And there's no repercussions. Fast forward 20 years. Just kidding. There's plenty, but they're just sold all of this, and we're sold such a young age, and then it just starts our problems. And then all of a sudden now we have all these mental health issues, and we didn't grow up. And then some of us had babies and we weren't able to grow up yet and assess our shit. And now our kids are mirroring it back to us.
Well, and on the same side, boys aren't taught respect or anything. It's just wear a condom and have fun in a way. It's just, it kind of, we were definitely set up for failure. I feel like we were the last guinea pig generation, to where now we're all opening our eyes, and it's I'm not quite seeing where any of that was useful to us, or why that was necessary. But it is definitely up to us now to flip
Inform.
that script
Right.
for our kids.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
inform. And like the values, like we talk, like when we were younger, porn wasn't as accessible, but it was definitely like normal now. You know, I would think most people, unless you're super religious, wouldn't be against it. Like
DVDs and
yeah,
VHSs.
and there was that section in the fucking video store for that kind of stuff.
That was closed off, and it was embarrassing to go behind that curtain.
Yeah.
Right? And like so to me it's like we're a part of that last generation too. Like, you know, that those things were so hidden, and it I think now kids nowadays are just
Have some modesty.
yeah, and had some modesty and some respect for that. And even then think about the damage it did to families and the nuclear like, you know, and relationships. And now it's in front of people all the time, and it's just causing so many insecurities. And it's just, you know, the parents of this generation definitely have different challenges with this whole digital world and access to things, you know. Like my parents
Yeah.
didn't even know how to deal with internet before my brother was like 13 and had access to internet porn. Like how does that happen, you know? Like shit's moving so quickly. I feel, and like I said, you guys don't have parents, you know, to talk to about that. Like what are your
Right.
parents going to tell you
Well,
about how to deal with it?
that is definitely the hardest thing that for being a parent is that we actually have to be really engaged.
Yes.
Right from what everything your kids are doing. That would be it's not even the kids that are the tough part. It's dealing with this fucked up world.
Yeah.
Because like you talk to our parents, like my parents, they would be totally clueless to all the dangers.
Yeah.
Because we were free range. If we were allowing our kids to be like I was in the 80s, there'd be so many people that would have had access to my kids, pedophiles, people that want right? Like it is so much easier to be a pedophile now than it was even when we were a kid, because back then you actually had to physically go to the park and pick a kid up.
Yeah. Now it's at your fingertips.
It's everywhere. Right? We leave them alone on their video games. They're on kids' YouTube. They're playing what's that other one that all the kids Roblox.
Yeah.
I told you guys about the one time when my daughter was on there, and I just had walked by and another user with the name Cum Guzzler.
That's right. I remember that.
Like,
yeah.
Remember?
Dude, I remember ASL was our thing, age, sex, location, and that was when like MSN Messenger and like there was like I just feel like we entered that in the most
innocent
stage. And now
adults when we entered that, right?
Yeah.
We're 11, 12 years old, 8 years old, you know.
Yeah.
And even like,
well, it's funny to me that Facebook, I'm pretty sure when I first started, my little brother is 9 years younger than me, and he couldn't have Facebook because there's an age limit of like 13. But he made a fake one. He just said his age was 13.
Of course
he was probably 9 or 10.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
And they're being exposed to stuff that, you know, like that is just, it's out there. And I just think that's probably
a simple question of, are you 18? When's your birthday? If a kid is halfway decent at math, like it's not rocket.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah, you don't even have to be bad at math. Like just, you know, make sure you get the middle zone there and you're good with the ages. But yeah, I think you guys have a different kids, like you said, there's more predators. Kids are so innocent, they don't understand. And parents are so busy because they have to be, because both of them have to be working now to be able to essentially provide, right? You don't have time to see all of that. And if your kids aren't into music or sports and they're into video games, like they could be creating friendships that are, you have no idea with people that you don't, I don't mean to be that person, but that scares me the most, I think, is these online relationships and these predators that come in and talk to them through games and just think it's innocent, but it's not, because just like a young kid can make an old account, an old person can make a young kid account too and pretend to be a younger person, and your child has no idea that someone's going to be doing that, because why would they?
They're not even just targeting the kids, they're targeting the moms. Single moms are a massive target. Single moms on Instagram are posting their park that they're going to. They're getting all their likes for taking their kids all these places, but they're doing it on a regular basis. And these predators can see where you are. Then they start on mom. They following mom, they get mom, you know, they go start dating mom, and then all of a sudden they're touching the mom's kid when she's not around. I mean, it's big. And I see women on my Instagram, and I don't ever tell them, but I'm looking and I'm like, this is a risk. The red flag, what your behavior is, because you're looking for all these likes, but you're exposing your kid. Because they're even posting the pictures of their kid. Like if you notice, I barely post pictures of my kids on. It might be Dylan in his hockey gear, you know, but it's
Mhm.
not really his face, right? But
It's
yeah,
hard.
I do, but it's also like my mom was always big, especially on Facebook. She tagged us wherever we were.
Mm.
We're at this restaurant eating lunch. We're
right.
here, we're there. And I hated that. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah,
Like that's asking for someone to break into your house. Are you kidding
right.
me? Like, why the hell would you do that? And now, yeah, like I don't tag shit. No one needs to know where I am. I do post pictures of her and stuff, but I try to do it mostly at home because that's one thing. But it is true, like that I am petrified for sleepovers right now.
Mm.
Evie will be able to have sleepovers at our house because like I know Nick and I know me and like everything like that. But like I hate to be that mom, but I don't think she'll be having sleepovers at other people's houses. It really stresses me out.
That's fair.
Thinking back to some of the like parents and like families that I went to sleepovers at, nothing happened, but like there's two I can think of that just gave me like a very big ick feeling. I remember when I was little, and it just really like Dusty said, you don't know who you're sicking your on your children,
Yeah.
like especially online. It is so like we had it a lot, like you said, it had to be a physical thing. They had to go to the park, they had to go where you had your first job, they had to go to your school
Yeah.
to like find kids to prey on. Whereas now it's just literally
On your phone.
Right.
like
Yep. And
Right.
you're like you Dusty
in your
said, they
underwear on your couch,
Yeah.
like preying on all sorts of kids. Not to mention the whole like the what's it called, revenge porn, and like getting pictures from children and then extorting them for more or
Right.
for money or for whatever the hell they feel like it is so much more advanced now than we were used to that it is a bitch to try and get your head wrapped around that.
I had someone
There are
that on
literally people
Instagram on me.
just want
I took a shirtless picture one time, and then they had one. Dude, there's a picture. They like, we got you now, and there's some dude blanket on, but it didn't have my tattoos. I was like, dude, like my hat is different,
we got you
You
now.
and
got me.
and that thing's way smaller. Like,
Oh my
It does
god.
no,
happen
But
though.
it's
But with
but
AI
I
stuff,
feel like
I
with
can see.
AI,
yeah,
Yeah, right.
it's
AI could be
scary.
bad.
There's already
I
a Twitch streamer that someone took like she had like a couple boudoir photos on her Instagram,
Right.
and some guy completely put her face digitally edited it in AI
What?
to make
for
it
the
look like
porn.
porn, and she was like, "This
Right.
isn't me," but it got sent to everybody, and everyone watched
Right.
it because it's like you don't understand how compromising stuff is now. And again, I hate to be that person, and I would struggle too because I would want to share my kid with the world, of course. Like,
Right.
they're so cute and all that, but then you think about stuff like that, and you're like, what are these perverts actually doing? And if they can do that to an adult, they can do that to literally
I've
anything.
actually
Right.
I've noticed there's been an odd amount of like older gentlemen, we'll say, that have like requested to follow my page
Yeah, and you're like,
recently. But my profile picture is me, Nick, and Evie at like a family photo shoot that we did when she was like 6 months old.
Right.
And it just like I'm always like, okay, so are you gonna come on to me or are you following me to be a complete pedophile creep on my child?
Yes.
Because it is a big thing. Like a lot of those like kid YouTube stars that are making like bazillions of dollars and who have like millions of followers, like
It freaks me
very
out.
sus in my opinion.
And then
Well,
look at their
I
comments.
where
It's disgusting.
yeah, I could see where these young, especially young girls, or even young boys, they're probably exploring their sexuality, and they might be taking pictures because that's a generation. But then you know what? How they'd panic and they wouldn't know how to deal with it. Like one of my patients, their kid had this happen, and he panicked, and I said to her, just tell him to chill out. It's not a big deal. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all happened to all
Well,
of
that's the
us.
thing too is
he's exploring.
they're
You're in your 20s, your teens. It's like, and this
Totally.
is just a different world. Like they
Yeah.
have pictures. Be cautious, but really, at the end of the day, who gives a shit?
Yes.
We all
well, and they destroy like the trust that they have in their parents to be able to
right,
tell them of things like that. So
Yeah.
they carry so much shame and guilt and like
right,
don't want to say, look, I accidentally clicked on this, or like this guy is saying really yucky things to me that I'm not comfortable with because it's your fault.
Yeah.
right,
You're the
Yes.
problem,
Yes. And
right?
they
Like that
shame
whole
them.
mentality is brutal.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, and you hear that a lot with a lot of like especially people in the child trafficking say something happened and then they're always telling them like, "Oh, if you tell on us, like you're going to get in trouble."
right.
And so the kids are like, "Well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble."
Especially the younger
And
kids.
or
Especially
Yeah.
younger
embarrassed,
kids are
you know.
embarrassed, right? Like cuz at that point they don't understand that. Like kids don't see that as obviously as a sexual act. It's like a dirty, like bad thing, right? They don't They're too young. That's why I don't understand why we're even bringing sex up to kids in conversations when we know statistically that that does not help them and confuses them more. Like I don't get that. It's just it bothers me that kids are even being talked to about that because they're too young to know any of this stuff. Like we're saying at the beginning here, like preserving their innocence is got to be the hardest thing to do this day and age with the amount of
Right.
sexualized everything. Like
God.
it's now even in children's cartoons, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Insane.
Why? I don't that's when I don't understand. Like yeah, that's a whole other fucking conversation which we're gonna have more of but what would just getting back to your guys' like personal experience a little bit, so Haley, what is one of like the more shocking things being a parent that you didn't kind of expect?
Okay, so this one I thought of being a mom. I was thinking about it. I the whole hospital experience for me, I really wish I would have stuck more into wanting to like the home birth just kind of freaked me out just because it is my first time. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know like anything. So you kind of go in. I was trying to be very trustful of the medical industry when it is like fucking me over so hard. So when we went to the hospital, in hindsight, they very much push and encourage in a very manipulative and sly way C-sections because I had to have a C-section, which I don't necessarily like. Everything went fine. She's perfectly healthy and fine. I came out fine, but the revolving door of like wanting to get you out, like she like it was I wasn't dilating fast enough, fine, but like if I would have been at home, it may have just been a longer extended labor. That's fine. But like I could have done it on my own. Whereas they're like, no, this is going wrong. We don't want her to be, to hurt and we don't want this. And like they truly try and like play on your emotions of like, we want your baby to be healthy and we want you to be okay. And like you're supposed to be able to trust these people. And it just really shocked me to see how like now that I think about it, how kind of manipulative they were and trying to like get it the way almost they kind of wanted to go. You
Your
know what I
experience
mean?
to be, yeah.
They didn't want like to have to like wait on me for 36 to 40 some hours, however long some labors can go. They just kind of wanted me in and out and fucking done with in the other room with my
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
And the like how pushy some of the nurses were. I was really shocked at how like, no, you can't do this. This is how you have to do it. I was like, pretty sure I was the one that just pushed her out.
yeah.
So you can like kiss my ass. I'm going to be doing it this way. Like
It's,
I couldn't share it. Like she couldn't sleep next to me in the bed. I was like, why? Well, what if she falls out? I'm like, there's a whole guardrail here for a
yeah,
reason. I thought like there's just really weird things they were very like rude and pushy on that I didn't like
yeah.
as a mom.
It's like they instill your immediate natural intuition is wrong of what you want to do. It's like it starts the minute that you become a mom. It's like everything that you think you should be doing is like wrong. No, you got to do it our way, and then that
Well,
starts.
especially being like a first time mom, they
Yeah,
really played on that. And like Nick has no freaking clue what the hell's going
of
on. And he
course,
got pushed out of the room for most of it because it was a C section and he was stressing hard.
of course.
And they're like, okay, we're going to explain this to you. I'm like, you don't need to explain shit to me.
Yeah,
You need to go comfort him because he is losing his mind right now out in a hallway watching my like because I had to be put under because the numbing wasn't working. So watching them like toss my like pretty much lifeless body around on this table, like absolutely like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like
yeah.
it is just the whole thing was very unnecessarily stressful in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and I think I'd struggle with that too. And I think you shared that today in our group about home births, and like a lot of the things that women suffer from in the hospital aren't things that midwives find at home
No.
because they're put in a different environment with a professional,
Mm-hmm.
like birth giver, as midwives are the more professional, like
And not someone
experts.
incentivized to just kick out
Hmm.
babies every few
Yeah, or make money on the
hours.
surgeries, like
Yeah.
you said. If like you're doing it natural, then you're not getting all the extra money that it's going to take from insurance to pay for all those things, especially
Mm-hmm.
here in Canada too, right? So that's a good point, Hales. Dusty, what about yourself? What
Mm-hmm.
shocked you the most
I'd
about
actually
being a
agree.
parent?
What shocks me the most is the absolute amount of guilt trips, manipulation on women, on mothers. Not so much on dads because we just, they that's the thing. Like society has turned us into Homer Simpson in their opinion. They
Yeah,
think dads,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't attack dads, but they attack moms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like on everything, and they've made it such a social norm that even other women do it. There's the
Mm-hmm.
moms groups and this expert, and how many experts are on Instagram that we watch that are
Oh my
mom
God.
experts. They know everything about diet, and if you feed your kid a McDonald's burger,
You're dead.
you're terrible. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
nobody's given a manual on how to be a mom.
No.
No, you know what I mean? And if your kid, the human body has something called a liver. It's good at pushing out toxins. We're okay to have a fucking burger once in a while. We're okay to drink some pop once in a while. We're okay to do something that might not be okay for you. But the opinions that are pushed on moms all the time,
Oh,
it's insane. So I can see why women have struggled through being a mom. And what it does is it affects the relationship too, because you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling guilty,
yes.
you're feeling inadequate. It's going to push on your partner, and then your partner's trying to manipulate being a man, which is tough in this world too.
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes from this guilt trip that moms get put on. You know, everybody's got to be this cool, like there's the bad
Pinterest
mom,
mom.
there's the mom that the know-it-all mom camp, and you're in between both these two camps trying to manipulate through this world, this society. And you know, like you said, and dads, a lot of dads just take the Homer Simpson route because they're like, okay, well, I'm Homer Simpson, I'm just going to put on my headset and play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
be a dumbass, you
Yeah.
know, and still be a child, you know,
Yeah.
all these child, right? And it's like, but it surprises me how much pressure is on moms because it comes from both sides. And there's no winning because you have the ultra feminists that say be this cool boss babe, this bad
Yeah.
mom, but then you have the other side. You gotta be going to church, and you gotta be feeding your kid right, and you gotta be doing this and this and this. You know, you can't have any vaccines, or you've totally failed as a mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
There's so
to me,
much.
that's yeah, I just see this massive pressure on women, but it affects all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And I find too, like you said, like the pressures on the mom, and I find that sometimes like there's a lot of pressure on dads for different reasons, but there's also not a lot of pressure on them to like step up as full parents, not
Mm-hmm.
babysitters, not like part-time, like to be like an active in their kind of
Like the first
role.
role.
I see a lot of well, my wife's doing like Nick, he's the first to admit, like, fuck, I don't know, you do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
he also gets to do what he wants. He's like in and out of the house, doesn't have to be like, hey, can you just keep an eye on her? I'm gonna go to the garage. Like it's just immediate like pressure on mom. But I feel like the like Gen Z, like the new ones, like it's even worse. Like you said, headphones on, playing a video
Right.
game,
Not
could not give
engaged.
less of a fuck about the fact that their wife is like struggling
Right.
behind them to like, yeah, make a proper meal. Is this like good enough? But they're not going to eat this because they don't want to eat all their vegetables. Okay, well, do I put this on there? But it's got like
Right.
this in it. So like it is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of dads carry that too because there's a lot of family households where postpartum depression to me is I don't know. I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of like a newer age. Like, yes, moms carry stress and yes, parents carry stress, but like the amount of like attention it's got, like, oh, like my doctor, is it postpartum? I'm like, no, it's just typical every day. Like, I'm in a
Stress.
fucking shitty mood,
Yeah.
or like I'm just stressed out, or like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because my child is like 3 weeks old and just
Right.
threw up like 6 times her body weight on me. Like,
Yeah.
it has nothing like I feel like, yeah, like we're all set up to fail in different ways, but
And putting
I hate
labels
to
on
say
it
it,
just make people put
but
medication on it. It's not that you got going
moms get,
through it, but like, isn't there just a thing that you just maybe go through some blues as you age out of being that different? It's like a caterpillar, right? You're going into a different
well,
phase
the
of your
learning
life, right?
curves too.
And all the learning curves, like you said, you're immediately getting a little tiny mirror put up to you of all the things that you're doing, because then you're self-evaluating. Am I eating properly? Like, am I getting enough
Yeah.
sleep? Am I like,
Evie.
because then you got to do that for another individual, right? Like, so is that just maybe, I was talking to my mom about this last night, like, does everyone have quote unquote generational anxiety, or do we just go through life and some things make us excited and we just don't know how to regulate that?
Dude,
And
it's waves.
right, and you go
Everyone
through
has
stuff
waves of
like,
emotion.
yeah, and just like the minute you label something, it always comes with like, oh,
Yeah.
then there's this medication. Maybe like maybe that's just what happens after women have birth. Like, that's just the way your hormones are rebalancing themselves. Like, especially if you're on birth control, got
Mhm.
off them, had a baby right away, and then now you're off having a baby and off of birth control, so your body is now trying to regulate itself from being suppressed from hormones for probably a decade, and then all of a sudden got the most hormones, and then all of a sudden those hormones just exited your body. Like, is that maybe just naturally what goes through, or Do we need a label? I
Well,
don't know. I'm probably going to get
we,
hated for that, but like, like
No.
maybe we could just have general compassion for women that just have babies and not be like, oh, well, it's because you have postpartum depression. Like, you just had a fucking baby. It's natural for your
we got to
hormones to
get
be
to
a
a
little
point
bit
too where
whack,
it's okay to be sad. Like, have this lie that's been told to us
Yeah.
that if you're not
Yeah.
And
all
uncomfortable.
happy all the time, your relationship sucks, there's something wrong with you. How about
You're
it's
broken.
okay to be in the clouds once in a
Yeah.
while? Embrace it. Just start taking those baby steps
Totally.
towards moving out of the clouds. But it doesn't mean everything needs to be thrown out because
Yeah.
you're unhappy for a moment, a year. Sometimes it's a year.
A
Sometimes it's
minute.
just you
Yeah.
got to move through it, and that's
Yeah.
part of life. But we're so intolerant to any unhappiness that we think, okay, we either need a medication or we need to get rid of this relationship, or there's something wrong with me. I gotta, you know what I mean? It's just so then people, especially women, are doing all this
Totally.
fake shit to find happiness. I gotta go get eyes done or my freaking nails, all this other shit. And instead of just like
Yeah.
sit in the
Yeah.
unhappiness, sit in the
Totally.
sadness, and start doing something that's actually healthy. Right? Yeah,
Figure out
exactly.
why.
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And why
And
do we
that's a
need all
lot of
those stuff
that's the
and
thing
what's rubbing us from?
that bugs me too is like we're not taught to deal with it anymore. It's taught to just like mask it and get rid of it quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, you shouldn't be happy. Here, take this, or go do this quickly. Like, well, is it why though? Like that we're no longer trying to get to the root cause of like health and mental health reasons. It's just a quick like take this, you'll feel better. If you don't, come back and see me in 6 weeks.
Yeah. In all aspects too.
Especially
It's like, don't get to the
on
reason
kids.
why. Like, we're talking about, like, oh, just go get, let's say, oh, you don't like your wrinkles, and just go get Botox. But it's like, but why? What's wrong with your wrinkles? Like, why aren't we talking about, like, what's wrong with your wrinkles? Like, why do you, okay, go get the Botox if that's what you want. We know I'm not like that. But can we have a question? I talked with that with Terry in the last episodes. Like, but why do you feel like you need that? Like, and if you're getting
The
it,
entire time we've been talking, I keep looking at my
oh, I have it right there. It's
I'm
like,
like,
I see
yeah,
it.
there they
Yeah,
are.
there it is. But what was cool talking to Terry about is like in Chinese medicine that represents some of the emotions, right? So if you have that 11s, that means that you have some anger, some frustration, and that you can heal those things by like herbal medicines and acupuncture and like moving your body and doing the basic things that you need. But immediately we're just
Right.
like, oh, let's put some toxins in our face because that's like easier. And I'm just not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to bash,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
Shove some botulism up in there.
right? And it's like, what are we sacrificing? Because like you said, Desi, we can't be uncomfortable, we can't be sad. It's like, why can't you just be like, oh, I don't like about them myself because I'm sad that I'm aging and it is sad to die. But instead, why can't we flip those narratives and be like, wow, I'm so blessed to have had a job that pisses me off, that stresses me out every day, but pays my bills? Like, why can't we flip the narrative? And like me and Haley, we talked about like those expressions, like we have them because we smile so fucking much. Like, what a beautiful thing
You
to,
smile a lot.
what a
You have
privilege.
disagreements and
Yeah.
debates, and like what a privilege to like have smile lines and look
Yeah.
like you've been somewhat happy throughout your life.
Yeah.
Like what a tragedy.
Can't we teach our kids that life experience, all good and bad, is beautiful instead of trying to just mask it? And then furthermore, instead of just masking it, can't we get to the root cause of why do we care? Because do we personally care, or does like society care, and then we care subconsciously? Because I don't think my 11s are going to dictate if I'm a good person or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have them, I still can be kind and generous and pretty, if that's what matters. I don't know. I just, yeah.
Right.
What are we teaching our kids, Just mask it and not look at the root cause in all industries?
I spent $10 on a thing of Post-its, and she's going to like lose them all on me here. She's asking green book, pink book, orange book. Like,
oh, Evie, I have some. I have a blue book. I have a pink book.
another thing of kids, the money
The
they
cost a
was
lot.
a shock to me. I knew that it cost money to have children, but like, my God.
Yeah, that's fair. Amazing conversation, you guys. I didn't ask any of these questions that we really wanted to, but that's fine because it was great conversation anyways. To wrap it up though, let's say Hales, as a mom for the last new mom for the last couple of years here, what advice would you have for other moms that are, feeling the weight of the pressure?
Have a blue book. Oh my God.
Give your kids everything they ask for always.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Honestly, yeah, like don't be hard on yourself because everything is a learning curve, obviously. don't be hard on your husband, because in my opinion, they don't really come into dad role until they're a little bit older, because they're so mom centric for the first while. It just is what it is. And two, yeah, like let them be kids. If she wants to play with all these post-it notes, fine. I can clean them up later. If she wants to destroy my living room, fine. I'll clean it up. Like nothing is so permanent that you can't shut up. You can't clean it up, or like, like if they want to go get dirty in the backyard, let them go get dirty. Like clothes are washable. Like I just want her to be able to do things without the no, we're not going to do that, or like no, like I don't know. It's just that, and trust your gut. That's probably my biggest one. It's like whatever you feel is right for you, give her. I co-slept for the first year. Is that for everyone? No. I got yelled at by a lot of fucking people. That's so irresponsible. Blah blah blah. I still breastfeed and she's almost 3, but like, do I care? No. Do I talk about it a lot? No, because the amount of fucking people that feel the need to like input and like tell me like, ew, she can chew steak. I'm like, yeah,
feels great when she does. No,
thanks.
Yeah. I did not know
it's
that.
not a habit she's not been able to break yet. Like I'm not gonna like rip it away from her and like purple book. My God, yellow book. Have the yellow book. There's just like so much that we like we've been saying this whole thing. Don't be so hard on yourself. Whatever works for you works for you. Like don't let people guilt you into doing shit that you don't want to, especially with your kid. Because as much as people don't want to believe these days, you do have a right and you do have responsibility over this human being. And it is really up to you on the choices you make. It should not be up to anyone else, right?
I agree. I love the
Do you
conversations
have an
having in
opinion
the
that
back.
you'd like to input? Oh my God.
As a cat mom or dad, I can't see which one it is.
As a cat in this household, I have an
I
opinion.
have some opinions. No, I think that's great. Is like, you don't block the intuition that they try to block from you right at the beginning in the
Yeah, and
get-go.
tell you that you're crazy or wrong
Yeah.
for feeling.
Because you could make mistakes. Like you're gonna make mistakes. Like sorry, we all make them, and you're as parents
That
are
is
going
life.
to. And if you're worried about people judging you about your mistakes, well, unfortunately, they might just make different ones, but they're still making them. I think that's fair to say, right? So it's like don't be afraid of making those mistakes because that's what you learn as parents. As long as their general health and safety is, don't let them like
As long as
walk
they're,
out
yeah,
windows. But like I just,
happy, healthy, and
yeah.
living life, like I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, Dusty.
I think
What
you're
would
doing
you
good.
add to that, especially as
That was
becoming a
great. I
preteen
agree with everything.
parent?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
don't let other people tell you how to raise your kids. They're in different situations, different financial situations, just different generations. It's different. So, but to me, it's just being authentic. Be authentic with your kids. Don't be fake. Be real. That's what they want. They appreciate that. They want real love. I mean, my kids here, I love you more than I've ever heard. So, they get it every day, right? And just showing your kids love, that's the real thing. Like at the end of the day, the kids when they're older, they're gonna look back and see, did I have a loving relationship with my parents? And that's 80% of the way, right? And then the other stuff, you do as well. But and the other thing is be accountable. If you make a mistake, because none of us are given manuals, I've got down on my knees and apologized to my kids sometimes and give them a hug and said, I was wrong in this situation. I'm sorry I did that. Instead of ignoring it like a lot of people would do. I'm the parent. I'm not going to. No, I've got down and I've apologized to them, looked them in the eye and said sorry. And I think, right? And I think that because we're just human beings as adults too. We are, and we have a generation. All these generations of adults are actually just our children in a lot of ways. Look how people responded to COVID. It was all those responses were child responses. If they went along the shit, they're just being a child letting someone else tell them what to do, right? So it's okay to admit when you're wrong,
exactly.
Or okay that you've made a mistake. Just admit it. Be like I said, be authentic, and don't listen to outside conversation because they're not in your house.
No, and I think that's too is so great. It's like lead by example and good and bad, like doing the things that you want them to learn, but also learning like I made a mistake and it's okay to admit that I was wrong, and it's a safe space with you guys to be able to say that so that when you make a mistake, you feel safe to do that and come back to me, because no matter what mistake you make, I'm still going to love you as your parent, right? And we're going to work through this together. And then that immediately starts a place where they can be human and they can go through those emotions, and you help them regulate in a space that they can, instead of doing it to the outside world, like in classrooms or other people's homes or at their work, or you know what I mean? So I think that that's the best advice, is like leading truly authentically by example, in the good or bad, and showing them,
Yeah.
you know, trying to be the best version of yourself, so your kids can then try to be their best version of themselves, however that looks for your family, your religion, your culture. You know, it's going to look different. That's why judgment on what other parents do and what feels good for them is so hard, because you guys have, everyone has such different lives. You know, some parents work away, some work together, some co-parent, some don't. Like everyone's going to be different. So I think just having grace with each other, and grace with yourselves, and honesty, and not being so afraid. Like I think like being a messy and like not being the Joneses is what's coming back. You know, I think that that's going to come back. It's the real talks, it's the real parents, the I'm not doing this perfectly, you know, the fails. Those are my favorite.
The mom showing up in like pajamas and freaking flip-flops to go and pick up their kids from, and not having to be prim and proper. I saw a meme today that made me laugh, because like there's no perfection when it comes to being a parent. Unfortunately, there's no right way to do it. It's just
what works for you. And maybe you got it wrong, and then you change, and then you share that, because it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make mistakes as parents, but like Dusty said, it's owning up to it and watching your kids, showing them
Because one thing,
it's okay to make mistakes.
One thing kids
this is
don't
what we
like
do when
is
we make mistakes.
They will call that out, and if they call it out and it's not being dealt with, they'll hold that inside, and they know who's being hypocritical in their lives. And so if you try to lie to your kids,
totally,
they might not say something, but they'll hold it inside, and you might tell a therapist in 20 years. But you know what I mean, like, right?
It's pinned. They know. They'll pick that
Another
up.
thing is teaching them to question things too. I would say
use and critical thinking. Yep.
And not necessarily just because I'm the parent, that's why. No, you're allowed to question people who like authority and stuff. I think that's a big thing I took away from the last few years, is being able to be like, but why?
Yes.
Like, I want to know why we have to do this,
yes.
you know?
Yeah. And how to do that respectfully, and having respectful dialogue with people that you disagree with. And I think that if you can do all those things, you're setting them up to be people in society that can contribute, that can disagree, that can argue, and but yet be respectful, right? Like, and I think that's why everyone's struggling, because when you have a kid, that mirrors that. And if you're not ready to fix some of those things, and now all of a sudden your kid's doing the same thing you did in junior high school or you know, you're all of a sudden being like, well, fuck, I'm literally the one that helped that breed that behavior, you know? So I think that would be a hard thing. Like I do it even with my cats. They like reflect me. I was like, wow, if I had children, I'd have the most needy children. I have bred this behavior. Like they meow, I jump. Like, ooh, if I have real children, I really need to watch that. Like, you know, that's my tiny input. But thank you guys so much. That was a great conversation. I hope that everyone takes away, you know, you guys are echoing the same things, you know, just be graceful with yourselves, have understanding, be honest, be real. I love how Dusty just said, be real. Just like, oh yeah, that's why every time there's just like, being real. Like, yes, I named the show correctly. Like, love when we have those lines inserted and we didn't even mean to. But as always, guys, like, thank you guys for jumping in studio with me today for these talks, for you guys for listening. Until next time, bye. Thank you guys for stopping by the show today. We appreciate you so much. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, make sure to show us some love on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest page, the Be Real Babe Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels, like those episodes, and turn on the notification bells. You can find our video version of the show on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, or you can catch the audio version on Apple and Google Podcast. But stay tuned for more realness coming to you soon. Until next time, babes.